Okay. The transcript has started as well. That's really fun to watch. Okay, welcome to course rep training. If you have just joined and haven't put in a little introduction yet, feel free to put an introduction of who you are and what you study in the chat. Yes. Welcome. It's great to meet you all. Yes, so some ground rules, just be respectful of everyone and let everyone have a chance to speak. Quite easy on Teams when there's a chat to put messages in. There's no such thing as a silly question, so if you've got questions you want to ask, as I said, you can put them on the chat throughout the presentation, and I'll try and get to as many as I can as I'm going, or I will respond to them after the presentation. And if there's any way that we can make these sessions more accessible to you, so there should be a live transcript going, but if there's any other ways that we can make these sessions more accessible, or any future sessions that we do for you guys accessible, let me know. It's always good to know how we can make things better for all students. Cool. This is a little bit of a weird group before I go on to the next slide, because obviously you're a mix of students who have been a rep before and are in second and third year, students who have just joined the university and are in first year and have never been reps before, and students who are in second and third year but have just taken up the role for the first time. So yes, we'll get to that in a bit. But the first thing I want to talk about in your role as course rep is your place in the Students' Union. So the Students' Union, if you're not aware, is a charity organisation run by students for students. And as course reps, you're a union representative that represents the views of students on your course. So if you consider, for example, the UCU, which is the union for your academic lecturers, they will have a representative for the Falmouth branch. So a Falmouth UCU rep. And in a way, you guys work in a similar way, in the sense that you have the sabbatical officers at the SU who represent all of our SU membership, but then you guys are our individual branches of reps who represent individual courses and year groups. I hope that makes sense. You empower students on your course to make changes that improve the student experience. You are the Students' Union. Sometimes I have interactions with students where they seem to imply that they want to know what the Students' Union does for them, not realizing that they are the union and you guys are the change that happens here. So we can't really do anything without your guys' input and without you guys saying what you want us to do and how you want us to do it. So yeah, I'll talk more about that in a bit. Important people for you to know: your sabbatical officer team for the year. So the brunette in the lovely green jumper is President Falmouth, Hannah. And she has been voted in by some of you guys, hopefully all of you guys, to represent Falmouth University students for the year. So any second and third years, hopefully you voted in our president elections. She's working on various different projects to help improve the academic experience and just general experience for Falmouth University students specifically. For instance, she's working on bringing back Wednesday open workshops, if any of you were around when they were running, and a load of other projects. So feel free to check out her manifesto on the website and see what she's going to get up to this year. You're also represented by our vice presidents, Phil and Orestes. The vice presidents at the SU are representatives of both Falmouth University and University of Exeter, Cornwall. So that's our whole Students' Union membership. And they represent you guys on sort of wider university issues that might be slightly less academic focused. Phil's focus in particular is sustainability in the environment, and Orestes is very focused on student wellbeing and student community, particularly that of LGBTQ students and international students, as that's his personal experience. But obviously, we're also here to support any other students who feel underrepresented and / or want to create community around their identity group. So yes, you can contact these guys whenever you feel you need them. So if you have some feedback about the wider university, so either it might not be academic and related to your course, or it's an academic issue, but it's affecting more than just your course, more than just your department, it's affecting actually a lot of students at Falmouth University, you can contact these guys and get support on actioning that feedback and taking it to the right people. If you ever need to email them, their email is on the slide, presidents@esu.org.uk. And they also have an Instagram account @SUPresidents, where they will post some silly things, updating you on what they're getting up to. So if you have Instagram and you want to keep up to date on what the SU is doing, particularly sabbatical officers, that's a good place to start. Also, if you don't already follow the SU on Instagram, the SU FalX, please do. It's a great way to keep updated with what we're doing and what's going on. Cool. So as course reps, you sit in the Students' Union under the Student Voice team, and you have basically there are people you can contact who are full-time members of staff, such as myself. I am Penny. Nice to meet you. I've already been emailing you about training and getting you registered, and you'll get lots of more lovely emails from me in your university emails, so please check them. Yes, and my job is Student Voice Coordinator Falmouth. So I train the Falmouth University reps and support you guys with any questions or queries you may have. You can contact me anytime. The difference between me and Hannah is that I and other full-time members of staff at the SU don't have any representative power because you've not voted us in. We just work here. We applied for the job and got the job. So we can't represent your voice in meetings. Only the sabbatical officers can do that. And you guys can do that as well as reps, volunteer reps. But yes, so if you need me, I can help with any queries to do with what the role entails, any questions you have about what the role entails, problems you're coming up with in terms of gathering feedback, and sort of engaging with students, engaging with your lecturers, any sort of day-to-day problems that you might be having in the role, come to me. If you've got any feedback that you think needs to be taken to a higher level, that's where you can talk to the sabbatical officers. Hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, let me know and I'll re-clarify. There are also other people in my team. There is a student voice coordinator who's a bit more general, focused on community, wider student community. So again, things like we have networks, so our ADHD network, our International Students Network, those are overseen by Leslie, who's lovely. She also helps support with our part-time officers who sit on our student council, and I'll talk about that a bit later. So that's what Leslie does if you're interested in exploring wider student community representation. And we also have the student voice manager, Matt, who you will hear from if I am sick or on holiday. You'll probably get emails from him. If you need to contact us, the best way to do so is our group email, studentvoice@thesu.org.uk, just because if I can't get back to you, Leslie or Matt will be able to respond to your query. But yes, you're also welcome to contact me directly if you need to. Cool. We also have other teams at the SU. Our advice team in particular, they free, non-judgmental, impartial advice and support for students on a wide range of issues. So that can be anything academic, such as academic appeals, if you need to appeal a grade, or if you want to transfer course or change course, they can support with that. But they can also support with budgeting, finance, applying for the hardship fund, accommodation, housing contracts, even employment contracts. They can help and support on a wide range of issues. So if you ever have a student coming to you with an issue that's quite personal, you as a representative aren't responsible for that student because you're supposed to be there to represent the minority, but you can signpost them to the advice team who can support on an individual case-by-case basis. If you'd like to know more about the specific things that advice can help with, you can check them out on our website, thesu.org.uk. We also have an activities team. They support our sports clubs and societies. So if you've been on a committee for a society or club before, you've probably interacted with them. And we also have an engagement team who help facilitate student-led events that foster student community. So in terms of the process of being a rep this year, some things have changed. As I said earlier, everyone here is coming from a different experience of Falmouth rep system, with some of you never having an experience of Falmouth rep system before, if you're a first year and you've just joined. Some changes that have been made to the system this year will affect all of you, and some of you will notice certain changes more than others. But in general, to be patient with each other, help each other out. And remember, there's no such thing as a silly question. If you need me to clarify any of the changes or talk through anything, just let me know. Okay. So the course rep role. You represent all students in your course year group, working with your course leader, department rep, and the other reps in your year group and on your course to resolve issues on your course and ensure students are being authentically represented. You'll also sometimes work with the SU to represent your coursemates' opinions on wider university issues. So if we invite you to a focus group, for instance, so last year we ran some focus groups on cost of living, in particular, how cost of living is affecting people's ability to complete assignments and pay for the hidden costs on their course, for materials, for access to equipment and stuff like that. So if we ran a focus group on cost of living, you as a course rep would be there to represent the opinions of your course and the students on your course in your particular year group, how they feel about how the cost of living is affecting them, and what they would like to be done about it, essentially. So yes, you're representative both at an academic level and you represent your course at a wider university level. Your main priority, your mandatory meeting that you have to go to, that's the main priority of your job, is student staff liaison groups, also known as SSLGs. These are meetings that allow you to share student feedback about your course with your course leader directly. They are attended by your head of subject and course leader, and minuted by your department admin, and this year they will be chaired by your department rep, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. They take place at least once a term and are organised by your department admin, so look out for emails from them and let them know ASAP if you can't attend a meeting. I have no involvement in the organisation, scheduling and meeting invites to do with SSLGs, so I'm not likely to know the answer, but if you do email me asking when your SSLG is, I will help you out. But the people who are most likely to know are your department admin team. Yes, these meetings are also always attended by your course leaders, and you're always going to be giving feedback directly to your course leaders, but they are also sometimes attended by other lecturers on your course. For instance, your year group leader might attend, and they may also be attended by library staff, technical facilities staff, IT staff, and other staff that assist with academic facilities, as well as sometimes they're attended by SU staff, usually me, but not always, as these staff members have differing availability, but they will always, no matter what, be attended by your course leader. So changes to SSLGs that recurring reps may need to be made aware of. SSLGs are now chaired by your department reps. The structure of SSLGs also changed across departments. So SSLGs are now department-wide rather than course-wide. For some of you who've been reps before, your department may have been running SSLGs in big groups already with multiple courses. For some of you, however, you may have been having SSLGs with just your course reps alone. So for instance, you may just have an SSLG with just marine and natural history photography students or just film students. But this year, you're going to be sharing your SSLG meetings with other courses in your department. So there is benefit to this. We didn't just do this for fun. It will help you guys get to know the other course reps in your department and collaborate on issues that impact multiple courses. And it will help you get to know your department rep and work with them on like department-wide issues. It will make your meetings bigger, but that doesn't mean that we're going to make your meetings longer. So I think most of you are probably used to like having an hour or two for an SSLG. We're not going to then make your SSLG meetings like 7 hours long. They are still going to remain around the 2 hour mark. So it's really important this year that you've really focused when you bring feedback to SSLGs on what the most important items of feedback are that you really need to push in an SSLG, and what might actually be able to be solved outside of an SSLG context. And we'll talk about that a bit later. So to give me a moment to take a drink, this is a list of different meeting terminology that you might come across in your time being course rep. If any of you recognize any of them or know what any of them mean, or want to have a stab at what they might mean, feel free to put some definitions in the chat. And I'm going to take a drink of water. Cool. In response to your question, Tash, you're always going to be sharing SSLG meetings with other courses in the department that you're in. So I can see that you're a graphic design student. And so you'll be part of School of Communication. In particularly, you'll be sharing an SSLG with other courses under graphics and advertising. I can't tell you specifically which one it will be, but your department admin will know more, and you'll find out when they send you an invite to your SSLGs. But it's always going to be courses that are relevant to you. It's not going to be like graphic design sharing an SSLG with acting. It's always going to be like similar courses within your actual departments. I'll answer all of the rest of these questions afterwards, if that's okay, lads. Does anyone have any guesses as to what any of these words mean in meeting terminology? I know all of you have loads of questions, so we'll get back to these at the end of the meeting because I think it'll be easier. A chair is the head of the meeting. Yep, that's correct. What's that one? Agenda is the plan. Yep. Minutes of the notes taken live during meetings. Notes written by a person of the meeting. Yeah. Cool. You guys know quite a lot of this. Sorted. AOB, any other business. Thank you, Daisy. You're the first person to actually point that one out. Now, actions are goals to achieve by the next SSLG. Pretty much. I will still go through these to give you the exact definitions. Cool. Also, yes, if you do still have questions, feel free to keep putting them on the chat, and I'll come back to them later because a lot of you have very similar questions and very specific questions. So, quick run through. The chair, as you said, is the person who controls the conduct of the meeting. This is now your department rep. Brilliant. The agenda, the plan for a meeting. It lists the items to be discussed in the order in which they will be discussed. So basically, this is the date and time of the meeting, and this is what we're going to be discussing today. When you send feedback through to your department rep, it will be added to the agenda as an agenda item. I also call these feedback items because they're made out of the feedback you get from students. An agenda item is a topic of discussion within the agenda. So yeah, basically an agenda is made up of lots of individual agenda items. Yes, and this year, because the department rep is the chair of the meeting, they're also collating the agenda. Apologies. Apologies are formal notifications of inability to attend a meeting. So when you let your admin team know, sorry, I can't attend an SSLG because of a situation, that's you giving your apologies. It was asked earlier about whether or not SS show up in your timetables. So I don't know if this happened with this training, but I feel like it should have. Your department admin team will send you a calendar invite on Outlook that you can RSVP, yes, I can attend, no, I can't attend, maybe I can attend too. That's one way for you to give your apologies if you can't attend, but hopefully you can. And it should also show up in your timetable as well as a result. But yes, so that's sort of the admin side of SSLGs. Actions, that's the tasks that need to be completed to achieve a goal or resolve an item of feedback. So as Noah said earlier, yeah, it's the goals to achieve by the next SSLG. Actions are the whole reason we do SSLGs. The whole point is for you guys to go to these meetings with your course leaders, say, here are the problems that students are having, let's figure out how to resolve them. And then like Noah said, the aim by the next SSLG is for those problems to be solved, or at least have progressed in some way, shape or form. So yes, it's really important for you guys to let students know the outcome of these meetings and what actions are being made, because that helps them know what SSLGs are for and why they're important and what changes are being made to their course and how they're being listened to by staff. The minutes, as you guys said, are the notes taken during a meeting that serve as an official/formal document of the key points covered. So your department admin will always be in attendance of an SSLG to minute them, and they'll write up the official minutes. So you guys don't have to take like intensive notes, but it's useful for you to note down any actions that are made in response to your specific feedback, in particular, any actions that you might be responsible for. It's also, I think, nice for you guys to know that the minutes in these meetings are actually used sometimes in the context of other wider university meetings at Falmouth. So it might be that your course leaders are attending a different meeting that a course rep isn't in attendance of or a student rep isn't in attendance of, but something comes up that they know they've gotten student feedback on through an SSLG. So they go, oh, this is the feedback that we've gotten. You can see in the SSLG minutes the feedback that students were given about this issue already. So they are actually really integral to Falmouth University's decision-making process, and like, yeah, all of the long, boring meetings that they do to make the decisions in this university, SSLGs do play a big part in that. And as Daisy pointed out before, AOB stands for any other business. And any other business is usually the last agenda item in an agenda that gives attendees of the meeting an opportunity to suggest additional matters for discussion. So anything that wasn't already on the agenda that you'd like to discuss in the meeting, you can bring it up during any other business if you feel you need to address something last minute. So that's meeting terminology that you're going to come up against as your time as a rep. Meetings you attend. So we've already talked through student staff liaison groups. They're the key meeting that you have to attend. You may also attend informal meetings and catch-ups with your university staff, e.g. your course leaders. You may attend informal meetings with SU staff and the Falmouth president. So Hannah may run some drop-ins to check in with you guys and see how you're doing and if she can help with any feedback. Equally, I may run some sessions to check in with you guys and see how things are going. We may run some focus groups about particular issues that are affecting the campus, stuff like that. And you may also attend informal catch-ups with your department rep because you have to give them your feedback. So it's useful if they can check in with you guys occasionally to find out what's going on. I've seen a message from Emily Smith saying about department reps. I'll get back to that. Sorry, I keep reading messages and then realizing this is being recorded and thinking, maybe I'll get back to that. So it's not on recording for everyone. The SU Big Rep meeting is also another meeting that you'll attend. So this is an event that is attended by all reps at both Falmouth University and the University of Exeter Cornwall. So it's for all of the reps at the Students' Union. It's an opportunity for you to discuss issues with wider university staff. So we normally send out an email to you guys with a list of topics we're planning to talk about, a list of questions that we want you guys to get feedback on. You get that feedback from your course mates, then you attend the Big Rep meeting and you give that feedback to the staff who is responsible for it. Last year we had some FX Plus staff there to talk about the spaces on campus and how you want the space on campus to look. And we also had some FX Plus staff there to talk about sustainability and how we can make the campus more sustainable. And we also had Falmouth University staff there. Particularly, we had the Vice Chancellor there to talk about strikes and the impact that strikes have had on your guys' studies, as well as other tables about Falmouth specific academic topics like EDI, equality, diversity and inclusion on your course, what that looks like, whether you're seeing that on your course and things like that. So a quick thing on meeting etiquette. For your SSLG meetings, remember to check your emails regularly, your university emails, because that's where all of these invites will be sent, and RSVP to any email invites. If you can't make it, please let your admin team know as soon as possible. Remember to submit your feedback in a timely manner in advance of each meeting to help your department rep build the agenda. The department rep has to submit their agenda for SSLGs a week before the SSLG meeting happens. So if you guys can do it, send feedback to them earlier than a week before, that would be great. And also make sure you familiarize yourself with the meeting agenda and the feedback you intend to discuss, which is fairly self-explanatory. Make sure you know what you're going to talk about. During the meeting, make sure you're punctual and on time. Don't talk over others. Make sure you allow everyone a chance to speak. And make notes of any actions decided on in response to your feedback, especially if you are responsible for them. So there may be a time where part of the you get some feedback and part of the action is that you guys as reps are going to let your course mates know about a particular web page where they can get some help, whatever. So you need to make a note of the fact that part of the action is to solve the problem is for you to signpost students to a web page, if that makes sense. So yes, SSLGs and coming up with actions in response to your feedback is a collaborative process between you guys and staff. It's not just you bring the feedback, staff solve the problem. You are also there to help. After the meeting, you need to feedback to your course about what was discussed and any agreed actions. So I've just seen Izzy put a message about this. Great timing. How do you submit feedback to SSLGs? Please report your feedback to the department rep in your department in advance of every SSLG. On the Find My Rep page on the SU website, which I will link you to in a bit, you can see who all of the reps in all of the different courses are in your department, and also who all the department reps are for each department. And they will have an email next to their name. You can contact them via that email. Not everyone will have, at the time of recording, not everyone will have an email next to their name because they haven't gone through training yet. So bear with me, you will all have a department rep and you will all be able to contact them in the next week or so. So yes, department reps collate agendas for SSLGs and they will need to do so in a timely manner. So as I said, they need to submit that agenda a week before the SSLG meeting. So if you can get your feedback to them, ideally 2 weeks before, that'd be great. And another thing to note is that you don't really need to sit around and wait on feedback before you send it. So if you have a thing that you know you want to go into the SSLG agenda, as long as you've got the evidence that a majority of the students on your course care about it, and you have the information to like paint a picture for your staff as to what the issue is, you can send that to your department rep when you're ready for it to be added to the agenda as soon as, so then they can just make a note of it. So any feedback that isn't submitted in time to be added to the agenda could be raised by you as any other business in the agenda, but that section of the agenda doesn't have an allocated amount of time to it. It's just the end of the meeting. So you might not get enough time to discuss it, which is why it's important to get your feedback in a timely manner. For those of you who have been a rep before, you may be familiar with the joy that is the online SSLG tool. We are not using that anymore, and that's because we want you to share your feedback directly with your department rep so they can make a personalized agenda for your department and for the courses that are going to be in your SSLG. This gives you guys as students more control over how student voice is represented in these meetings. I don't want to assume that any of you have had this experience, but you might have had an experience in SSLGs before where it's felt a bit like staff who are in control of the meeting sort of brush over topics that you'd actually like to talk about more on, or yeah, that essentially. Sometimes it can feel like staff brush over issues maybe. Having the department rep in control of the meeting and chairing the meeting and in control of the agenda and what's talked about and when allows you guys to stop that or mitigate that from happening and have more time to talk about issues if you feel like the action that's been made for the problem maybe isn't up to scratch. Maybe you think that there's more that could be done. It also means that feedback can be grouped together thematically. Not all of you will have had SSLGs before with other courses, but if you are a student who's had that before, where you've been in an SSLG with other courses in your department, you may have experienced the situation where one course brings up an item of feedback about, let's say they're giving feedback about the studio space. Your studio spaces are too cold, the heating needs to be turned on. And then another course goes, yeah, our studio spaces are also really cold and the heating needs to be turned on. And then another course goes, yeah, I agree, the studio spaces are really cold. So you can see how people start repeating themselves. Having the department rep see the feedback that you guys are giving ahead of time, they can collate these items of feedback into a theme, and you can discuss it all together rather than having to repeat yourselves or feeling like you're skipping over stuff to save time. It can all be discussed in a like proper, timely manner, and you all get a say when the subject comes up, if that makes sense. So yes, submit your feedback to your department reps. Don't use the online SSOG tool. We're not really looking at that anymore. So what feedback should you bring to an SSOG? Student staff liaison groups are meetings with your core staff, so there's space to talk about academic feedback because your core staff can action academic feedback. So this could be teaching or anything to do with course and module content, timetabling issues and concerns, anything to do with learning resources, the library, stores, IT resources, anything to do with your assessments and feedback for those assessments and how that works. And personal tutoring, that's another thing that you could talk about if it's relevant to what's going on in your course. Student-led projects and events, that's also an opportunity for you guys if you would like to get a bit more out of the rep role. If you are here to sort of represent your course mates through feedback and that's it, that's absolutely fine. But you can also use this role as an opportunity to organise some events and projects that support academic community in your departments if you would like to. For instance, you could start putting on study groups or organise some guest lectures if you're feeling fancy. If you are interested in doing any of that stuff, feel free to email me and get in touch or email Student Voice and we can support you with how to go about doing that if you'd like. And also feedback that you bring to an SSOG, you can talk about in SSOGs the overall effectiveness of the meetings themselves and the actions of the department and the SU in response to your feedback. So essentially that's saying if you're going to an SSOG and you've had another SSOG previously in the year, it's an opportunity for you to go, right, so we brought this up in the last SSOG and this is what you've done so far in response. Are you satisfied with the actions that your lecturers have undertaken? Do you feel like more could be done? Do you know what more could be done? Did the actions work or is there another approach you need to take? That kind of conversation, if that makes sense. When it says the SU in response to your feedback, kind of a tricky one because you, as I said, you guys are the SU and you guys are the representatives in these meetings, but also outside of SSOGs, if you ever bring feedback to the presidents and the sabbatical officers and you want it and need help actioning it, or your part-time officers, you might bring feedback to them, and then you feel like a few weeks down the line, a few months down the line, it's not gone anywhere, you can still feedback to us and be like, hey, remember when I brought this to you? What's happening with it? Let's talk about it. So yes, it's an opportunity for you to hold us accountable and your core staff accountable. There is some feedback that's not necessarily appropriate for SSOGs. So any feedback that you get from students that is time sensitive or easy to solve out of SSOGs, you don't have to wait for an SSOG. So for instance, in terms of time sensitive issues, I have seen students talking in SSOGs about things like logins and not being able to access logins and stuff like that. So if a student feedback to you that lots of students on your course aren't able to access the portal that you need to log into to submit work for assessment, you don't need to wait for your SSOG to talk about that. That's an urgent issue that needs to be solved because that's a really important part of your course. So you can take that directly to a one-to-one meeting with your course leader. Equally, if it's just a really easy piece of feedback that you could solve, for instance, students, maybe it's a timetabling thing, you'd like your lectures to be in a different room where possible, talk to your lecturers about it, see if they can work with timetabling to change the room of a lecture, for instance. Some things are just easier to solve outside of SSOGs. I'll leave it to your discretion what that looks like. But yes, anything that is urgent, which you can generally tell, you don't need to wait. Also, as reps, you are entitled to ask for meetings with your course leaders if you need them to catch up on feedback, find out what improvements are being made in response to actions from SSOGs, or talk to them about any feedback that's come up, again, that you don't want to take to an SSOG. Don't be afraid to just email your course leaders to ask for like a quick catch up, like a 10-minute catch up or anything you need. Same with the SU. If you want to have a quick meeting with one of the presidents or myself, you're entitled to ask for those meetings because they're there to help. We're here to help support you. You may also have feedback that you get from students that is related to non-academic issues. Non-academic issues in particular might concern accommodation, parking on campus, non-academic events on campus, so on and so forth. Anything that technically involves catering and accommodation on campus is normally to do with FX+, who are not related to your course staff, essentially. So your course staff work and are paid to develop your course content and the structure of your course. So they aren't really able to action your feedback to do with accommodation because they don't work in that department. They don't know how to make those changes. They normally end up having to forward it on. So it may be that there's a different avenue that feedback is more relevant to you, and I'll talk about that in a second. So if you have other feedback, first place to start, well, a place to start is make a change. I'll quickly send you a link. As the slide says, if your feedback impacts the wider university and has a clear solution that you want to lobby for, it could be brought to our student council through Make a Change. I've sent a link to the page if you're interested in looking at it. Make a Change I describe as the change.org for the student union. Essentially, you can put an idea or a campaign, like you can suggest an idea or a campaign on that page, and then other students can look at it and upvote it. The motion that you suggest, my internet dropped out, that's great. The motion that you suggest is going to be brought to student council. And student council is made up of part-time officers who are like you guys. They're volunteer representatives. They've been voted in by students across Falmouth University and the University of Exeter because they represent all of those students. And they're there to vote on SU policy and union policy, run campaigns on wider university issues. They're there to help the union make sure we're representing your best interests as students. And we're campaigning for things that you guys, students, care about, and not just any old stuff that you're not actually interested in. So that explains Make a Change. If you're interested, there's currently a campaign or an idea suggested on Make a Change to get sleeping pods on the university campuses. So you guys can go on there right now, and if you think that's a genius idea, you can vote for it. And yeah, you might want to check it out just to get a bit of a better idea of what it does. Yes, if you have any other questions about student council and what they do, feel free to put questions in. Where can you vote? On Make a Change stuff is on the page, the link that I've just sent. When you log in, you need to log in to vote. You always need to log in to vote for things because you have an SU specific account. So once you're logged into the website, if you go to the Make a Change page, there'll be a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and you can click. Obviously, thumbs up if you agree, thumbs down if you don't. Okay, other ways you can address feedback. As I said, you can have informal meetings for course staff. So you can, meet with your course staff informally to address any urgent or time-sensitive problems, or any problems that are easier to solve outside of SSOGs. So that's another option for taking feedback that's not SSOGs. And you can also discuss any non-academic feedback at any time with your SU sabbatical officers and student voice team. You can also discuss it with your part-time officers. Again, our part-time officers make up council. We have, they will have different specialisms or areas of interest. So we have some green officers, and the green officers will focus on sustainability, an accommodation officer who will focus on any feedback to do with accommodation. And then some officers represent different liberation groups. So we have a women's officer, a mature students officer, a disabled students officer, so on and so forth. And if I can, I will quickly send you a link to the page of part-time officers at the moment. Also, whilst I'm here, we are, as at the time of recording this, running a by-election for some of our posts for societies and sports officer. So if you'd like to vote in that, you can find out more on our website. This is all under Student Voice on the website. It will be under Student Voice and then elections. And then I'm just about to send a link in the chat to your current part-time officers for the year, if you'd like to check that out. Cool. So that's all of the avenues for non-academic feedback. When you are gathering feedback, you can gather two key types of feedback. Words are escaping me. So you can gather two key types of feedback, one of which is quantitative. It gives you an idea of numbers and it helps you demonstrate to your course leaders that the opinions you're sharing are shared by the majority of students on your course. Because as a representative, you need to be prioritizing that is of the opinion of the majority. There are cases where this doesn't necessarily apply. So for instance, if the feedback is related specifically to an issue that affects a minority or an underrepresented group on your course. So for instance, if you get any feedback from some disabled students on your course about the accessibility of some learning resources, that's a really important issue that you can bring up in your SSLGs. It doesn't matter that the population of disabled students on your course doesn't make up the majority of your course. It just matters that they are feeling that way and it's affecting their experience, if that makes sense. You can also collect qualitative feedback, aka words, long form information. This helps to illustrate what specific issue students are having, how it's impacting them, and how they might like it to be resolved. It just gives you the background information to explain the problem to your lecturers. It's good to collect both to be well-rounded in the feedback you're collecting. So there are different ways to gather feedback. If you've been a rep before or you've done anything where you've gathered feedback before, feel free to put some suggestions in the chat for different ways that you can gather feedback that work for you, or any ways that you think are really terrible and you shouldn't even bother trying. Either way. But some suggestions from us are sharing things on group chats. Some of you may already have group chats with your course mates. You can also use Teams. Teams has a group chat functionality, and that's a good way to reach all students on your course because all students have a university email that will also have a Microsoft Teams account. You can do shout out in lectures. So you might want to ask your lecturers for 5 minutes at the start or the end of a lecture, just to say, hey, I'm the rep, I'm collecting feedback. And either point them to a survey you might be running or so on and so forth, or you could collect feedback there and then. In lectures, it might be good to do like a quick hands up if you want more books in the library or that kind of thing, to get like quick qualitative, quantitative even feedback on like numbers of like percentages, how many people feel this way about an issue. Online surveys are great. You probably all use them already. They can be anonymous if you want them to. And students can fill them in their own time. They don't have to be with you face to face at like in time to fill them in. They can fill them in of an evening, you know, when they're getting to and from campus. The only thing about online surveys, if you plan to make them anonymous, don't advertise them in public spaces because you may get people filling them in who aren't even studying your course. Same with if you're using things like Instagram polls, because I've heard students talking about it. Instagram polls is a great way to get feedback quickly, but people can access Instagram stories publicly. If you're posting it publicly, anyone can access it, and therefore it might not be actually representative of your course mates. It could be representative of any old person, any old guy. So yes, there are also some notice boards around campus. If you see a notice board that says student reps Falmouth over it and like some blue logo stuff, that's incredibly outdated student union branding. But it's a notice board for you, so feel free to post any QR codes on it if you want people to scan them to collect feedback. You may have notice boards within your actual departments, so within your studios, if you're a visual arts student, or yeah, I know that Amata has an SU specific notice board on the 3rd floor opposite stores, and that notice board. You guys can post whatever you want about it related to reps, as long as it's not offensive or rude. Please do. I'd love to see that. So yes, there's many different ways you can do it. You can also email students. You will all have an email that your lecturers might use that is like your year group and your course group. So for instance, 1st year acting, 2nd year graphic design. That's a group email that you yourself can email, because as a 2nd year graphic design student or a 1st year acting student, you're a member of it. You can't email any other course year groups this way because of data protection stuff, but you should be able to contact your course year group. That's another great way to capture everyone if you need to, and ask for feedback. So things to remember when you're collecting feedback. Avoid asking leading questions, which basically means don't ask any questions that might be suggestive of a particular desired answer. So for instance, instead of me asking you, how much did you enjoy rep training? I should be asking you, how did you find your course rep training? Because that allows you to respond even if you didn't enjoy it. You can say, actually, I didn't enjoy it. Equally, another thing to remember, make sure you consider the perspectives of your whole course cohort, not just those closest to you. I talked earlier about how there may be situations where you are representing feedback from different underrepresented groups. So that counts under this, but also just in general, try to avoid only collecting feedback from your mates and the people you have regular seminars and lectures with. If you have a big year group, I know it can be a lot more difficult to catch everyone in your year group. You may not have many workshops or lectures with them. So I can understand how reps may fall into this trap. But if you can, ask your lecturers for support with reaching out to those students who you don't normally have sessions with. It might be that they promote something in a slide in their lectures, or you pop by for 5 minutes to say hello. You may also want to ask your lecturers if you can put stuff on their learning space to promote that you are the rep, and if people need to get in touch with you, how they can get in touch with you. Yes. Also, please remember when you're presenting your feedback, so when you write it up and send it to your department rep, and when you talk about it in SSOT meetings, just make sure that it's following the ABCDEs of feedback. So it needs to be accurate and appropriate to what students have actually fed back to you. So if students say, oh yeah, we really didn't enjoy that art history lecture last week, you can't go and going, they kind of liked the art history lecture last week, because that's not representative of what they actually said to you. Your feedback needs to be balanced. It needs to be as representative as possible from students of different backgrounds. It can't just be skewed to the perspective of one student on your course, essentially. Constructive, seek to understand what's working well on your course alongside what could be improved. Your lecturers are humans too, so they also might take feedback a bit harshly sometimes. So when you make your feedback constructive and say, this is also going really well and we're really enjoying this, or this isn't going well, but here's why we think it's not going well and what we think you can maybe do to improve it, that's a lot better than just going, this thing is crap, we don't like this thing is going terribly. Gives them a little bit more to work with as well, to help you solve the problem. Depersonalized, make sure your feedback doesn't name individual students or staff. If the feedback is about the conduct of a particular lecturer, for instance, I'd advise not taking that to SSLGs at all, because it's very personal, very specific to one person, and SSLGs are public meetings that are minuted and recorded. So if you can, with situations like that, try and take that feedback directly to your course leader in a one-to-one meeting, or obviously if the feedback's about the course leader, take it to a different, more appropriate member of staff. If it's feedback where you're just comparing the nature of two different lectures, for instance, or two different modules that are delivered by two different lecturers, it's okay to bring that feedback forward. Just don't name the people and point fingers. Just say, oh, well, this module is run like this, or one particular lecturer's session was run like this. And yeah, just avoid naming specific people. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. And finally, your feedback needs to be evidenced. So yeah, make sure you get that kind of quantitative feedback that says 9 out of 10 students feel this way, or 60% of students feel this way, and gather comments and quotes if relevant, to help illustrate the picture to your course leaders. Finally, closing the feedback loop. It's really important after every meeting, you let your course mates know what feedback was discussed and how staff intend to respond to the feedback, what actions were agreed. You can do this in the same way you might gather feedback. So you might do it at the start or at the end of a lecture, do a quick shout out. You might ask your lecturers if you can post something on the learning space, if that's an option, or put forum on the learning space. You might share things over email or in your group chats. Whatever way works best for you and your course mates, but just make sure that students know, because if students don't know how staff intend to make changes on the course, they can't hold staff accountable for those changes. They need to know what's going on in your course, essentially. And in your SSLGs, they're not meant to be kept secret. Only you guys are meant to attend them, but other students can know what was being said. It's okay. Like, they need to know how their feedback is being responded to, essentially. Cool. So that sums up the whole process of being a course rep, and everything that's going on. I've once again forgotten to put the QR code on this slide. However, I can send you a direct link to the webpage that I want you to go to. So the next step, the first thing to do is to introduce yourself to your course mates. You can do this by email, group chat, ask your lecturers to shout you out in a lecture, however you feel more comfortable with it. We also have lanyards. I don't have one to hand, but we have lanyards with card holders that say I am a rep, and they're like a really funky purple color, and they're SU branded. They're free for you guys. So if you guys drop by the SU office on Pembrokeshire campus and you want to pick up a lanyard, feel free. You can put student ID in it, and you can wear it around so that there's a visual cue that says, hey, I'm the rep on your course. It's also just useful, to hold your student ID on when you're tapping in and registering for classes. Check out our Find My Rep page. Some of you may already have seen this. I've just sent a link in the chat. So this page that I've sent in the chat is like our course rep hub, and it will take you to all of the different pages related to student course rep things. It's in the process of being built at the moment, so some pages aren't on there yet. Please bear with me, but hopefully in a week or two, all of the information that I discussed in training will be on here for you to refer back to. So all of the information about how to collect feedback, different methods will be there. And there will also be the Find My Rep page, which will tell you who the other reps on your course are, because I know that was mentioned earlier, I think. So yes, that's a good source. It will tell you who your department rep is and how to contact them. And finally, the final step is to start gathering feedback ahead of your first SSLG. So those are all the next steps you need to take. And now I will open up the call to questions. I'm first going to start by stopping the recording, and then I'll stop sharing my screen, and then I'll go over all the questions I missed in the chat. Brill.